Okay. One. Go.
Hi, this is Bobby Suka from O'Neill, Nebraska, from Quilter's Candy Shop. My sister is Margie. We just got everything packed up and ready to go for this week. With the exception of a few, we're waiting for some nutty nag patterns. So if your package didn't ship today, that's why it didn't ship today. They were supposed to be here today, and you know how that goes. But a lot of scarves went out this week, and I said to Margie, we need to do a demo to show people just how easy these scarves are. So she said, well, if we're going to do a demo, you can do the demo. So I said, okay, let's do it Friday afternoon. Let's do it after we close the shop on Friday afternoon. We get everything packed. But before I start, I'm going to show you a few of the notions that I love sewing Minky. And I'll tell you why I like Minky. I have been quilting since my youngest boys were babies. They were born 10 months apart. My only night out, I figured I needed a night out. I went to a quilting class. It was either that or therapy, because I had 4 kids and they were all really little. And quilting, I got started and I loved it. I loved the camaraderie. I loved everything about it. The thing about quilting is I think every point should be perfect. I like to sew. I mean, I really sew with perfection. What I like about Minky is I can relax. Every point doesn't have to be perfect. And it still looks perfect when you get done. That's what I like about Minky. It makes really awesome gifts. There's none of the little animals that I've made that somebody hasn't said, man, I'd really like to have that. So that's why I like Minky. It's been kind of a break from my cotton sewing where you have to be so meticulous. This is a how-to video that's going to go into our files. That way, anybody who wants to know how to make an infinity scarf can go into our files and make it. Other things that I use, I really like cone thread, mainly because I sew a lot. So I don't buy spools of thread because nothing irks me more than running out of thread right when I'm going strong. So I had Margie get in these cones of thread, and these are polyester threads. She also carries the cones of, what's it called?
Just look towards the camera.
Anyway, she carries cones of cotton thread too, but these two are 2 cones of superior thread. One's superior. Yeah, I guess they're both superior. Another notion that I really like are these little scissors. I guess I've never found a pair of scissors that I like as well as these, mainly because my fingers are a little bigger, probably because I worked on the farm so many years. They fit in them, you know, and it still makes a great cut. I love this little thing for my clippies. It's just a nice little garage, and I can hide things in it, side it. Once in a while I have chocolate in there. Once in a while I have all kinds of stuff in there. So this is also pretty cool, and you'll see me use it as we sew these scarves together. This holds my little clips as I go. It's really easy to reach over and clip them on, pull them off. So I really like that. This is kind of cool. You're going to find I'm a gadget person. One of my favorite parts of anybody's show is notions. So I also use, when I'm sewing Minky, the flower pins. And in order to use the flower pins, I really like this magnetic pin cushion, because as I pull the flower pins out, then I can take my pin cushion over and just wand them up. The other thing I really use a lot of is this Bianni stylus. It has saved me and my fingers so many times. So this is probably another one of my favorite tools. And of course, the stretch needles. I'll be honest with you, except for Microtex, I had never used any other kind of needle, but I can really see the difference in these. And now when I'm putting on things on a polyester shirt, when I'm hemming polyester pants, when I use these, it just seems like they sew a little slicker. But anyway, let's get down to what we're going to do today. So if you ordered a scarf, you would have got it in the mail in a bag like this. So you open the bag. Oops, first you got to get the tape off. You open the bag, and one thing we do is we vacuum our Minky before it goes out. The nice thing about the scarf is it's ready to go. When you get it, it's ready to go. All you have to do is what we're gonna do is we're gonna pin it, we're gonna sew it, then we're gonna flip it through and turn it into a scarf. I also pulled out a shaggy one because I want to show you that it's not any harder to do this shaggy one than it is the other one. It's just the amount direction that you're going to sew and using your stylus or your finger to tuck the threads in. So I am a clipper more than a pinner. I do use both because when you first start out sewing on your machine, you can't have a clip there. So I do use both. So my first few inches will always be pins, and then I will intersperse pins throughout, especially when I'm trying to get it lined up. So why don't we go ahead and we'll get this baby pinned. So first of all, I'm going to match up both ends.
They can't see your other end.
I'm going to match up both ends, and then I'm going to find the middle. And I'm going to pin there too. And then I'm just going to go back and clip. Like I said, this should be a relaxing sewing. So I will just go back through and clip. And as I'm clipping, I just tuck these babies in. And I'll clip probably every 2 inches or so, which really is close enough. And if you get to one end and there's a 1/2 inch longer once you get it sewn, again, Minky's supposed to be non-stressful. It's supposed to be a relaxing thing to do. So don't sweat the small stuff. It's not like matching up a corner for a competition quilt. This is supposed to be fun and easy. So I'll go through here and I will, like I said, I'll pin about every couple of inches. And the nice thing about pinning it or clipping is it doesn't matter which side you sew on. So I'm going to want to sew on this opposite side that I'm clipping on. So I'm going to put 2 pins down here because I'm going to want to be tucking this in. Even if you don't tuck it in, we'll pull it through later. So we've got this one all. And this is such a fast project. This is something that I'm going to have, I really want to do when I get together with my granddaughters. We were going to do it this summer when we were camping, but honestly, it was like 90 degrees up there, and it's really hard to get them interested in making a scarf when it's 90 degrees. I kind of mentioned it, and they kind of looked at me like maybe I was certifiable. So I thought, well, maybe some weekend when I go over and they're playing basketball, then we can do this. So as you can see, this one doesn't have near as much riffraff on the edge because it's not a shaggy, but it also doesn't have the fun of the shag. So I'm sorry, this was the Merlot owl, a snowy owl. I really love these new owl prints. I figured these are going to be gifts for the people that I work with, relatives. But as you can see, it doesn't take much to clip these together. It doesn't take long at all. You don't want to make it.
Are we selling scarf kits today?
We can show some at the end if you would like. Margie's taking the questions, so she'll answer. Also on my machine, like I said, I've got polyester thread here. I've got my walking foot. I love this this Janome, because it has a built-in walking foot. It's probably one of the reasons that I bought it. I have my thread count or my thread stitch set at 3. They say between 3 and 3.5, but that's where I set mine. Like I said, oops, we're starting on the wrong end. See, I didn't start on my pinned end. I really like to start on my pinned end because then I can, and I just sew, I don't know. I don't measure. I try to sew like a 1/4 inch seam, because the nice thing about this is, the other thing I want to tell you about this Minky is, if you get the, oh, let's see if neither one of these do. But if you would get the selvage is just as pretty on the front as the middle of the fabric. So don't whack off that selvage. Just use it. Just use it as your edge. So here I'm going to start. I'm going to, whoa, and you don't want to do that. You want to pull your pins. Okay. That's always good on the old needles. And I always back up. And then I just pull my pins over. But I have a hard time sewing really slow. And with this, you really don't have to. You just keep sewing along. I love this stylus because it just seems to keep everything, I don't know. I used to use a purple thing, and I really like that too. But there's something about this stylus that kind of digs in a little better into the fabric and keeps it going on point. But like I said, this doesn't take very long. It's really a, whoa. I have my feet kind of right under me, so it's not the most comfortable position. So it makes me want to race a little bit. Although if you ask my daughter, I don't sew at any other speed than high. She kind of tends to take after me too in that regard.
The camera when you go too fast. So.
Oh, Margie says that if I go too fast, I bounce the camera. We don't want to make anybody sick out there. So. And anyway, we'll take a quick moment and sew this blue one together. I'm just going to finish the snowy owl one, or I can finish the blue one. It doesn't matter. And again, I get to the end, back it up. And that's the other reason I like it. Although it seems with this polyester thread, it doesn't like to cut as easy. So, all righty. So we're going to set this one aside. Which end is my pins on? Okay. Okay, here we go. All right. And again, on this one, this shaggy stuff is really fun, and you know, teenagers and young people really like it. So don't be afraid to sew with it. And I'll show you in the end how we're going to pull those threads out. Because there's a way to, you know, even if they're hanging out like this now, there's a way at the end to get them to. Am I bouncing?
You're not too bad.
But here, I'll just take my finger and tuck them in a little bit. But like I said, it's really not going to matter. This stuff is so forgiving. And if you have any questions, just holler. I tend to get to sewing and figure everybody knows what I'm thinking. So if you have a question, just holler. But like I said, I love gadgets. When Margie and I used to go to market, I used to come home with crazy gadgets. That was probably the one thing I liked the best, that and books. Obviously, everybody thinks we're still open. It's amazing that people still call. And if you run your hand along the top, you can tell that it's not getting bunched up underneath. If you feel uncomfortable with Minky, you can clip and then also run a layer of pins along out here. The one thing about Minky you don't want to do is rip. It's just not fun to rip out. I don't like to rip, period. But I also tell every class that I ever teach, if you're not ripping, you're not sewing fast enough. So that's kind of my theory. And if you ask the gals up at the camper, if you ask them what my saying is, they'll tell you that that's my saying. If you're not ripping, you're not sewing fast enough. Okay. See, and now we are pretty much 2/3 done with this.
I would like to see the stylus.
You like to see the stylus? This is what the stylus looks like. I also use this end when I'm going in to stuff my animals because it'll kind of get in the corners. Do not use this end to stuff your animals. I've made that mistake too. It goes right out the other end. But yeah, I use it. I use it a lot. All right, so now what we're going to do is I take a pin, and I can use a clip, but I get a more even side. I want to know the opposite side on this. So I'm just going to mark it with a pen. Okay. So then I'm going to turn it. I'm going to turn it right side out. See how pretty it is already? Woo. And then I'm going to turn it wrong side out again, or I'm going to go wrong side halfway. But when I get down here, instead of matching this pin up to this pin, I'm going to swing around and match it up to this, to the seam. And then I'm going to clip, because I'm going to clip this end. The end is easy to sew. And then I'm going to come over here, and you may need to pull some out, get it out of your way. I'm going to match this up. What this does is gives it a little twist and turn, yeah, in the middle of your scarf. And now we're just going to clip around. And I'm going to double clip here because that's where I'm going to end. And sometimes I get to sewing and I get to thinking.
You need to move up a little, Bobby.
This way? Which way? Move up higher?
More, yeah.
I get to, so there's my beginning and my end. And I'm going to leave a gap there. And now I'm just going to fill in with clips.
You need to move there.
So now I'm just going to fill in with clips because I'm going to be ready to sew. But what a great gift this is. I mean, between $9.95 and $11.95, and you give somebody a scarf that, like I said, I love this thing. Oh, you probably can't see, but if you run it over the top of your sewing machine when you have pins over there, it just laps them up. It's probably another awesome gadget. Like I said, I'm a gadget person. I like to sew on the inside. I don't know, because that's where the way I was taught. But we'll just go in here and we're just going to sew. And we're going to sew around this whole outside. Where's my stylus? I'm going to lose this if I don't have it. I really like it because it just seems to keep it straight going in. I was never a stylus sewer. A lot of people use styluses, but now I found, and I don't know, now that I've used one, I really like, because it just makes things go in nice and straight and even. And like I said, I'm kind of meticulous about that kind of stuff. I've kind of gotten hooked on this Minky. You've seen the zoo that I've made so far. I just really like sewing with it because it's relaxing. I showed a lady the other day. my neck on my bear is not straight. I mean, and I knew it when I did it. But you know what? You can't see it because he's so fluffy. You can't see that that's really true. Okay, now we're going to back it up. I'm just going to put those in my chair. All righty. Oh, yeah, for some reason maybe my scissors are wearing out too. This would be the third machine that I've worn out, so it could happen. And now we're just going to turn it right side out. I'll show you another reason I really love this stylus as soon as we get this baby turned right side out. Could have probably left the opening a little bigger.
Come further.
Margie will tell you though that I'm not much of a hand sewer. So if I can cheat on hand sewing, whatever I cheat, I do it. I think that's why see how you have this nice twist? And all you have to do here now is stitch this shut. And so much of it is hidden. So if you take your stylus and see how your threads are caught in there.
You gotta come. There you go.
Your threads are caught in there. When you take your stylus over those seams, now all of a sudden you don't even have a seam. That's the other thing I love about this Minky is there's no seam when you get done. You've got this long seam down here, that you sewed. I got to find it. Where is the seam? There has to have been a seam. I sewed it. I don't know. Oh, here it is. But see how the threads kind of get tucked in there. But if you take your stylus and you just lightly run it along the seams, and these are what I call sit in my chair, relax things to do. Because I don't have to even think while I'm doing it. I really like things where I don't have to think. But, once you go along these different seams, all of a sudden now it's almost hard to find where you're going to have to sew because it gets so hidden. And when you sew that together, your stitches will get, and I use a ladder stitch, which is what they use, but you just catch it, go inside on your seam. We used to call it a hemming stitch, and then catch it and then go in on your seam. And it also strengthens that top seam. But see this scarf, we put that together in next to nothing of time. That's what's so wonderful about them.
We flip back to you and you try it on.
Yeah. So are you flipped back?
Now we are.
So except to sew that little piece together, and like I said, I would go across all the seams. Oh, that did a lot for my hair. But this scarf's ready to go. Look at how fast that was. I mean, but that's what I wanted. That's the biggest thing I wanted to get across to you is don't be afraid of this stuff. It's so fast. This is the fastest gift you're ever going to make. Maybe somebody's birthday's coming up. Isn't it great to have this up on your shelf? And all of a sudden you get this, you figure out that you forgot to get a birthday gift. Well, you got a scarf. Probably not in August. It's 97 degrees here today. I'm not thinking if I showed up to the birthday party, but if I showed up with this and a bottle of wine, yeah, then all of a sudden the scarf looks pretty good, and it'll really look good after you drink the bottle of wine. But yeah, this is so, and this one goes together just the same. You're just going to turn it right side out, and then you're going to thread it back across.
Why don't you use your stylus to pick out the...
Oh yeah, and on this one, see. I'm going to have Margie go back. But on this one, how I told you that don't worry about if those things if the threads are sticking out. This one is really great because, man, when you start picking this baby, you're going to have a hard time even finding the seam. See that? You can't even find where the seam was because you go back through and pick those things out of the seam. And you can't even find where the original seam was. But again, you're just gonna tuck it back in. Well, first I would have marked that other side, but Yeah. And then twist it and sew it. And then you're done. I always keep a thread up on my lampshade right by the TV. And then I'll take these little projects out there and I just whip them shut, throw them on the couch. I'm done. Got that gift done. Um, that's what I do. But like I said, you'll just mark this in half. And on this one, you might want to mark it with clips because the hairy one's hairier. But yeah, you can mark it with a clip even, especially if you really don't like if you don't like to pin. And then bring it in here, twist it, clip that one. And then we're going to clip this one to this seam. We're going to clip around, leave an opening, and this scarf will also be done, ready to go. You know, you can when I made the 2 scarves for our examples, I put 2 scarves together in 20 minutes, start to finish. And part of that was reading the directions, which I do tend to do the first time I do something. I try to read the directions. But I'll just come over here and I'll just make sure all these little hairs are tucked down in there. And then I'll just clip it. And this baby's ready to go. But just don't forget to make an opening. If you forget to make an opening, well, you're going to have to rip. And the only good rip in the world is on Yellowstone. And man, he is hot. If every ripping in the world were like the rip on Yellowstone.
You're getting off the camera. There you go.
But yeah, I'm just tucking these babies in and clipping it shut. But these are a great gift. You know, they're not very expensive, but they look expensive. I mean, they look rich. And that's what I like about them. They look like you've spent a lot of money. They don't need to know. Although we had a neighbor that watched the show the other night and he said fabric is $11 a yard. So most men don't have any clue anyway. But see, now this one's ready to go. I always double clip on my beginning and my end because, like I said, sometimes my mind will wander and then you'll just turn this one right side out and it's good to go. So that's how easy it is to make an infinity scarf. Super duper easy. Anybody can do it. It's probably I mean, if I were going to sew with a youngster or even a teenager, I'd probably, like my daughter calls it, kindergarten clip. I would just clip closer together because they can just slide those clips off onto the sewing machine. But I mean, this is a good project that you could do with a teenager or a child as a first sewing project. But that's pretty much what I know about this. I mean, if you want to see some different of the quilt kits that we have, I'll sure show them.
Why don't we put them on Monday night?
How about if we put them on Monday night show? But this will be in the file folder. This will be in this how-to video will be in our file folder, so you can reference it. Like I said, when I did my first elephant, I watched Teresa Coates's video like 3 times before I did my first one. That's just how I make things. And then I was very comfortable with sewing with Minky, or I was very comfortable with doing it because I had watched her video. So that's why we are putting these to-do videos up so that you can get a little more comfort. Tomorrow, we're going to do another to-do video. It's going to be how to cut out your animal pattern, or how I cut out my animal patterns. You can do any of this any way you want. You can do, but I'm just going to show you how I do it, how I make it easy for myself. I'm going to show you my handy dandy. This is my favorite friend. Oh, you have me on this one?
Yeah.
So, I didn't know. So this has become my favorite Minky friend. That or the hose of the vacuum cleaner, because sometimes I cut them out at work. And so if I cut them out at work, I don't take this because it makes a little too much noise. But for some reason, the vacuum cleaner doesn't seem to wake anybody up. But like I said, pretty simple. We probably put that together in less than 10 minutes. And
Time tomorrow.
what time tomorrow, Margie? We have to wait till Margie gets up. I'm just kidding. It'll probably be in the afternoon because we're going to come down and start getting stuff ready for the show Monday night.
Notice out on the video.
We'll put it, Margie will put a notice out. We won't, but Margie will. But again, yeah, tonight I'll just go through and I'll just pull out all these little Harrys. And, but we want you to feel comfortable with this Minky because I feel really comfortable with it. There is not anything I would be afraid to do with it. I just love it. When I first sewed with Minky 20 years ago, it was not like this. It was not as pliable. It was not as easy to work with. This stuff's really nice. I mean, I'm really glad to get back.
They were asking about instructions, and I said we'd put a link to the instructions because the instructions are from Shannon, correct?
Yes. Yes. The instructions, and you get instructions with, I don't care if you bought 8 scarf kits from us, you got instructions in every one of them. Because if you're like me, you might sew 3 of them today and you might not touch that other one up on the shelf until 6 weeks from today. And then you can't find those directions. So every scarf kit has the directions in them, but they are Shannon's directions. I'm not sure if she put, I learned the little tip of turning it inside out and sewing it like that online. They just had you sew it. You know, I don't know. I haven't read their directions. But that little tip that may not be in the directions, that flipping it but I think it is. I'm pretty sure it is. I didn't make it up. So, all righty. So that's it for today. It was nice to meet you.
See you Monday night, if not before.
Yeah, we'll talk to you Monday night. I won't see you. Monday night's a busy night for me at work. But tomorrow we'll try and get that video on how to cut them out. Then this week, when you get all your Minky in the mail, you're going to be, whoa, I can't wait to get started. And that's what we want. We want you to be excited and want to get started. So, all right, Margie, I think I'm done here. Good night.